everybody for joining us. Welcome to the American Chiropractor TAC's TicTalk. Today, we're very honored to have our guest, Dr. Nick Athens, and of course, alongside our wonderful editor and practicing chiropractor, Dr. Joe Bush. I am also your co-host, no doctor here, just Jacqueline Toussard. So thank you guys for joining us. We've already been speaking a little bit behind the scenes here with Dr. Nick. So give us a little bit of background, Dr. Nick. What brings us to be talking with you today? Because I know you got some exciting news to share. And for those who are looking at the screen, I'm holding up a copy of Dr. Nick's book, To Health with You. So tell us a little bit about the making of this book, Dr. Nick, and a little bit of your background, which is quite expansive actually in chiropractic. And that's really, we're always looking to feature doctors who are walking the talk. And is it over 65 years young? You're the walking embodiment of a really great, healthy doctor at 65 years young. So tell us a little bit more about how you got here and how our doctors can utilize your book and your wealth of knowledge to help their patients and their practices.
Great. Thank you for having me on here, first of all. I guess I started back in 1982, graduated from Palmer College back in Davenport, Iowa. Started in 1983. Started from scratch, no patients at all. I talk a lot about that in the book, what it was like starting out as a chiropractor. A lot of rejection, 8 out of 10 people rejecting you when you got out of school. You think you go through school, you get this degree that people are going to understand. And, school is a vacation pretty much when you find out when you're in the real world, because when you have to go out and meet patients and get them and get rejected, it just toughens you over time. And so after 42 years, fast forward almost 43 years now, you learn from all these thousands of patients that come in from starting from scratch and what their patterns are. And they had to guide them in your office as a last resort doctor, because most of the patients that they referred in from their friends and family and talks and passing out cards and being rejected. And then they come in later on because they're hurting and they're not getting the results they wanted through the medical system. So coming in as a last resort and you deal with these patients who come in, you see these patterns that they have that send them down the rabbit hole of ill health. And I put them all together over 42 years to give society, being in the trenches, in the foxhole, in the street fight with patients and being where they're at and meeting on their same level, and how pain changed their personality and how their brain worked when they had pain and how they weren't themselves. It's like an alien took over their body because they were hurting so bad. They talked more. They were frustrated. They kept talking about the same injury. They're looking for a way to get out of the shell that they created inside them, that they couldn't find a way out. They were trapped in their body in pain, taking more sugar, more emotional eating, trying to find a way out of this rabbit hole. And then I said, man, what is going on here to cause them to go down the rabbit hole of this ill health and all these healthy chronic disease processes over time? And you learn that you're more powerful than just adjusting the spine. You can break the cycle and you could help reboot the system that runs the body, the nervous system, and get it to work better from the inside out. And so from a chiropractic always worked, but after time and seeing it work over and over, you realize you're changing people's mental health too. And so I'm saying, why am I changing people's, why are all the patients who are in a bad mood in pain? And now I change them mentally and put them in a good mood after we got them out of pain. So now they're happier. They have a better relationship with their spouse. They have better relationship with their kids. You see kids' grade point averages improving because they could focus better. You see the whole domino effect of the family being affected. And you learn,
They're nicer to your front desk people, right?
yeah, they're nicer to your front desk people. They see this. And so what you find is, okay, all the patterns I wanted to put in the book that you talked about, Jacqueline, is how physical pain affects people mentally. And so in the medical world, they give you products for the brain, depression, and they give you products for the body, opioids. So in essence, people get addicted to these products and they don't realize by getting adjusted, by rebooting the system and getting the patient out of pain, the brain now is like this dimmer switch mechanism with dopamine and endorphins. The brain wants to give you a good feel good chemicals every day, but if it's in pain and you hurt yourself and physically having these bad habits, the brain now shuts down the dopamine channel, the feel good channel, like this dimmer switch. So now you have physical pain with mental depression because you're not yourself. but you don't
Hmm.
see that as a patient. So now you need coffee, you need sugar, you start eating more to wake up the brain, not realizing the physical pain, the body's protective mechanism, the subconscious brain is trying to protect you from hurting yourself more. It doesn't trust you that you're going to handle yourself right. So it's going to keep you in a bad mood with physical pain. So
Hmm.
now you help the patient physically. The brain now starts saying, okay, well, we don't have to shut down this body anymore. Let's open up the dopamine channel. Let's open up the endorphin channel. So that allows you to have better mental health with physical health. So the chiropractor can be that coach, that source of information to guide patients to better physical health and mental health. And so
Hmm.
in the book, I talk about what happens with the brain and how these bad habits lead people down the rabbit hole. And as they age, they have this disconnect where mentally, they physically, they feel older, and mentally, they might still have this youth, but they're not taking care of themselves the right way. And as a
Hmm.
result, I teach them how to get better health and the activities they could do proactively with their body for
Hmm.
proactive aging, not reactive aging. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much how that all started. And during COVID, instead of talking about it, I wanted to do something about it. So, how do you take
Hmm.
42 years of your life and put it into words that make it, put it on a platter for patients to understand it? And I wanted a book that people can absorb, digest, and implement.
Hmm.
I want to win the implementation award, not just give them information and scientific studies in the trenches, what it's like with people, to win the award that kind of guides them to better health, that they could actually see themselves doing in the book what they could be doing to improve their health that they really haven't been taught before. And
Hmm.
I feel I do everything myself. Everything in the book I do, from flexibility to weight training to hydration to mindfulness to keeping a calm life,
Hmm.
having accountability, other people around me to keep me on track. And you look at these blue zones, these people live 100 years old. They're living 100 years old because they have calm, they have community, and as a result of that, they're less reactive with their decisions. They have better food choices. And it all
Hmm.
starts in my world teaching people the mind, getting a calmer space mentally, so therefore your decisions are better, lower blood pressure, better sleep. In this reactive world, and I talk about that in the book in a hurricane fashion, and I said, to create stress and anxiety in one photo, I showed a hurricane. And I show
Hmm.
stress and anxiety in the outer bands. And the brain can handle stress and anxiety on a temporary basis, not a 24/7 basis. Unfortunately, since we live in a 24 basis, stress and anxiety in the outer bands of the storm, we don't know how to get to the eye of the storm, which there's better health. It's easy to talk about, hard to do. And in the book, I show you ways to get to that zone life or that area in the center of the storm to have you have better health. You can take a
Hmm.
breath, reset,
Hmm.
recalibrate to move forward again. So I get it. I know what people go through, and I want to share all that information with the world to make improve people's health.
That's great. So it's not that you have to have a perfect scenario around you, which is kind of this panacea that they're always selling you, right? Like you've got to cut off the toxic people around you. You've got to, do some perfect lifestyle.
Mhm.
And the fact is that like you said, the storm is always around. So you've got to be changing. And I always love the analogy where they'll say learn to dance in the rain or like so you're giving them the tools to complement what chiropractic is doing, but so you're taking advantage when they're coming into your practice to addressing these lifestyle elements. Now, have you seen, you've mentioned how many books have already been sold of this book that you just launched actually?
So I'm happy to get 1,500 copies. So I'm happy with that, and I'm happy
Mhm,
with the 5-star reviews that I'm getting on it. It's on Amazon
mhm,
and to healthwithyou.net. And I
mhm,
guess if you look at healthcare in general, if you could get people to stay calmer instead of, a lot of people say, you're working too hard, you're too stressed, you need to exercise, you need to do this, you need to get better sleep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like scratching a blackboard in people's minds. No, no, you guide them to there. You say, hey,
yeah,
instead of removing stress, how about we add more calm? Maybe we
yeah,
add more calm in your life. That'll remove some of the stress. Now the stress becomes more manageable. You can see the
mhm,
forest beyond the trees. Okay, so now if you add more calm, like I said, you're less reactive. If you're less reactive, that's huge because the conscious brain doesn't know fantasy from perception and imagination. And I have a little bubble machine here, Jacqueline, I wanted to kind of share. And this bubble
mhm.
machine is kind of like just bubbles that come off. And all it is with these bubbles in these thoughts, well, it should be coming off any second here. Well, here we
Get
go.
rid.
Okay, so
Yeah,
these
okay.
bubbles are thoughts coming off the brain. And some of these
Yeah.
thoughts are fantasy, some of them are imagination, some of our reality, some of it's perception. We don't know.
Mhm,
We have to filter all these thoughts. And
mhm,
that's why athletes have coaches because athletes live in the perception world. Since the brain doesn't know fantasy from perception, imagination,
mhm.
timeouts are called from coaches to give realistic voices. So we all
Right.
need realistic voices. In the book, I talk about nature and animals hunt in packs. Animals are all together. Birds fly in a V formation. Geese for a reason to have less resistance. So you
Mhm,
need realistic voices to keep you on track, whether it be Tai Chi classes in the park. You could go to the gym. You could go to yoga, dance
mhm,
classes, Pilates classes. Use other people around you to change your habits. It takes about four to
mhm,
5 weeks to change those habits, get you to
mhm,
this calmer state where you get this reset. You're not going to be as emotional to start looking for other ways, coping mechanisms from the outside in. Now you're
mhm,
hacking the body's coping mechanisms from the inside out. And now you can go forward where you're more in control of your life. There's a saying,
mhm.
rule your mind or it will rule you. Horace
Right.
said that. He was a philosopher. So if we could rule our mind better and not lose the tug of war in our own brain, we could just
Mm,
have better decision making, and as a result,
mhm,
better decision making is going to give us better results long term. So the
mhm,
chiropractor's job is to be like that healthcare coach or that coach that helps the athlete perform better. The chiropractor's job is to help this patient along their healthcare journey to give them
mhm.
better statistical results as they age.
That's amazing. Okay, well, let me see here too then. I wanted to check too when you talk about, you gave us some of your background and your history. Now, when we met you, I know you've been featured in the magazine probably over decades ago if I look back in our history because you've been
Back
in
in the
practice that
80s.
long and I was,
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I was I'm so impressed to see how active you are. And, I mean, we met you again as an NFL football, chiropractor.
right.
Tell us a little bit about that and how you see that playing into to chiropractors and their patients.
Yeah,
The
well,
kind
most
of
most NFL teams now and sports teams have chiropractors. It used to be not in the 80s. They used to be looked down upon. They weren't a real doctor, and since weren't a real doctor, they didn't work. And so,
Mhm,
but the players kind of proved that wrong because the players kept coming in and working with the 49ers and Joe Montana, which was nice of him to give a nice quote on the book, who won the Super Bowl four-time champion, who said in the book, use this book as a playbook for your health long term, which was
mhm,
nice of him to do. And so these athletes over time, they rely on their bodies for performance, and that's how they get paid. So
mhm,
they are paid to win games. They're paid to grind on the field. They're paid to be in shape in the off season. They're paid to perform. And what they look for other ways to perform, and chiropractic care is a great way to perform in addition to eating correctly and taking care of themselves. And they need that body mechanic. Like I tell patients I'm like the mechanic to the sports car, the Ferrari, the Porsche. I'm the body mechanic to your body to help get you to get those 8 cylinders working because you're only working with 5 cylinders. I'm going to raise the level inside you, raise the
mhm,
level, take your health to another level. And so these athletes are always looking for ways to take their health to another level because that will help them win games. And in sports, one play can determine the difference in winning or losing. One play.
mm,
So you got to realize you got to be ready to make the play. You don't even know when that play is going to happen, but that play
mhm,
determines history. It determines legends. And if
mhm,
they now with pro athletes and them using chiropractic, they're using for ways to um, find better ways to hack their inside to get, if they could raise their level of performance just a bit, 10%, it's huge for them, right? And so now
mhm,
Hmm.
working with the
Right.
Lakers still years, and then the Chargers, they have me going down to help with the LA Charger football team. So I'd like to work with pro athletes eventually when I retire after my son, who's in chiropractic school, gets out. And I'd like to work with athletes to teach them preventative tools and what they could do, much like I talked about in the book, to prevent wear and tear, prevent injuries, to keep them going in the
mhm,
sport that they love to do. And if you could keep them in the game a few more years, they're getting paid more, of course, right? They're making more
Hmm.
money because their performance
mhm,
is there. And if you could help them make more money, then you're doing your job as a chiropractor, helping them along this journey. And also, what the athletes are great with, they help expose the profession in a good light because their bodies are worth money. And so they wouldn't be using chiropractic care if they didn't think it was working. If
mhm,
they think it would hurt them, they didn't think they would not go down that route. They're smart enough to know what's going to work for them and whatnot. And so chiropractic now has grown where all the NFL teams have chiropractors, official chiropractors.
Hmm.
Baseball teams have chiropractors. Um, soccer teams have chiropractors. So it's kind of grown really well in the sports world. It's great to see since the early 80s, there's less resistance toward the profession. I'm really happy to see that. I'm happy to work with
Hmm.
doctors. But back in the day, it was hard to because they didn't think they've been taught that, chiropractors aren't the best of professionals. They're not as knowledgeable as us, and that knowledge should give you better results with patients. Well, I'm saying, well, then I would be out of business because if I was really not performing as a last resort doctor, uh, you're helping me, perform, and I'm taking care of the last resort patients. So you're helping me finance my lifestyle because your results aren't as good as you think. So I go off health
Hmm.
statistics. My job is to get patients, 98% of the patients who come to the office better. And my goal is to send patients on their way to get
Hmm.
them make better lifestyle choices. They can move forward and then just maintain their bodies. Come in like you're tuning up the car on a regular basis, get your body adjusted, checked out, and like a timeout in sports, reevaluate and send you out in the game of life. Instead of send you on the court, send you out so you can be better in the game of life with your performance. Now your
Hmm.
family's going to be better. You're a better father and parents for your kids. Everything
Hmm.
just works better when you're taking care of your body and being proactive with your health.
Well, Dr. Nick, I wanted to jump in and say too, because while you're good enough to be, of course, we always say that, the American Chiropractor, we're always bringing together the latest and greatest in chiropractic every month in the magazine, and of course, online in our podcasts and social media and programs. And it's funny because then we always say, that we're bringing together the all-star team in chiropractic. So when we got to meet you at one of these Parker Vegas shows and you were adjusting all of us, we were like, hey, if you're good enough for NFL, I got to say, it was one of the most amazing adjustments I've ever had. Dr. Joe, I don't know if you got the opportunity to get adjusted by Dr. Nick, but you are one of, we're definitely, if you're good enough for the NFL, you've got the health of, every show that we get to see you at, you got a sports team in the American Chiropractic executive staff now in your hands.
I love the way you think, Jacqueline.
Dr. Nick, I have a question. You said the one play, makes the game. So one adjustment. Is there one adjustment
Mm,
that you remember that really had a huge influence on the outcome of maybe an athlete's
Yeah.
career? Or what kind of techniques do you use? Clearly you're into nutrition, lifestyle medicine. When I say medicine, I mean just activities, right?
Right.
But what kind of techniques do you incorporate? Are you, manual? Do you use instruments? Are you doing, you know, NET therapy with your hands? Or, could you take us through that a bit for someone who's maybe getting into sports, trying to figure out their direction?
Yeah, so really, I've learned from Dr. Mitch Malley back in Davenport, Iowa. He taught me as an instructor. So you always have mentors that you looked up to. And I
Sure.
saw the results he had with his patients. And I learned, that if you want to be a chiropractor, you have to master your hands. So there's a saying, to be a black belt, it takes 7 simple moves. And I said to the instructor, why don't more people become black belts? And he said, because most people don't want to learn and master the 7 simple moves. They always say,
mm,
teach me something new, teach me something new. So I wanted to master with my hands. So I'm more old school. I wanted to be really efficient with my hands and be really great to reboot the nervous system and adjust the segments that need to be adjusted. Don't over adjust
Mhm.
patients, adjust them where they need it. And the one adjustment that probably remember is the Super Bowl with Joe Montana was able to get on the pregame show, which I talked about in the book. And adjusting him hit like 90 million people. And so it really kind of brought chiropractic to the sports world, which is great.
mhm.
And so that kind of said, well, if Joe Montana's getting adjusted, uh, doctor, you're telling me this, but I see this guy on a big screen getting adjusted, and
Yeah.
he's not that ignorant, right? So kind of right now, there's your fact check with the doctor to say, hey, that maybe I see a Michael Jordan or a Joe Montana getting adjusted. I
The
would trust these guys
legend,
over
Joe Montana. Yeah.
they're legendary, right? So, and those
Yeah.
plays make them legendary, which we talked about, right? Those plays that count in crunch time. So, if you can deliver the goods with your hands, chiropractic means practice with hands, right? So, if
Mhm.
you could be really, really great at your hands, you could get a lot of patients well. And so, just this mastery of your hands, I use Gonstead, Diversified. I use ways to adjust patients that with pillows
Hmm.
and thinking outside the box to make patients the adjustment more comfortable for patients. And I see kids to babies to older individuals, as you see from all walks of life. And the great thing is how you can change their health trajectory and how much happier when they leave, and you grow this chiropractic family. So I've seen over 750,000 adjustments, over 27,000 referral new patients as last resort doctor. These are first people, right? And these
Right.
people are
Yeah,
your
exactly.
family, your friends in. And so, I've only got, of the 27,000 new patients I only got like 15 from medical doctors. That's crazy, right? So I built this
Mhm.
whole practice from scratch. It's like you have to learn to hunt and fish in the woods by yourself.
Right.
Once you do it, you become really, really good at it, right? Most
Mhm.
people,
The survival of the fittest, right? Yes.
survival of the fittest. Right? I'm not one of the guys who call myself a fisherman with fish jumping in the boat and me going down the river, right? So I'm gonna have to go find the fish. So you have to,
Now, was
get
Jacqueline the
taught.
750,000th? Was she the 750,000th adjustment,
I
or
didn't count her in there because I didn't hear feedback till now, but now I'm going to count it as 750,001, right?
there you go. There you
Just to hear that feedback. Anyway, but yeah, it's just fun taking care of people. And then when I come in, it's great because I feel I have this experience of 42 years in this youthful body. So I have this experience to know where patients, to send patients what to do and to
Mhm.
guide them to better health.
Well,
So,
Mhm.
clearly
and,
you're a
and
passion-driven man, and this whole, I mean, this podcast right now is going to be very inspiring because there are graduates coming out that feel the same way as you. Even though you feel like there's a shift in how chiropractic is interpreted. I mean, I guarantee you there are guys knocking on 10 doors and getting 8 of them
Mhm.
slammed in their face, and maybe
that's all
one comes
normal.
in and the other one, you
That's
know.
right. And so, Dr. Joe, I tell these younger doctors, 8 out of 10, I said, right? You get rejected. You got to keep going to
Hmm.
the eight, the two that say yes. Eight
Mhm.
Hmm.
more, two yes, eight more. So now you've been rejected. You've been, rejected 16 times, but you have four
Hmm.
new patients. Four new patients to tell you.
Hmm.
So keep getting rejected, and you're going in the right direction.
Hmm.
And I tell doctors to get the seven, you need to roll the dice. So keep rolling the dice. Keep rolling the dice. Keep attacking. Keep rolling the dice. Keep setting out and the universe kind of gives you back with that. And as long as you're mastering your trade, you're locked in. You're taking care of your own self. You're eating correctly, you're trying to get
Mhm.
good sleep, you're mastering your trade, you're going to seminars, you're trying to make yourself better. These
Mhm.
are things that are going to work in your favor. It's a fail-proof way to build a practice. People are going to come see you, they're going to refer to you. And patients want doctors who are locked in. I want to go to a doctor who has his mind and body at the clinic at the same time. I want to go to a doctor where his mind isn't outside the office, but his body is inside the office. I want to have the doctor locked in with the mind and body as one. That's the doctor
Mhm.
that's going to get patients well. So you have to practice that mentally to take your mental up to another level, physically take care of your body. So I try to put that all in the book to get people to understand how their body can work to hack the inside, get more out of the inside, which is better than any pharmacy drug that will give you from the outside in.
Mhm.
I'm going to teach you how to hack the inside to get more out of the body from the inside out, like this dimmer switch to get you up all the way, to get the eight
Mhm.
cylinder engine working. Simple analogies that people can understand.
Now, Dr. Nick, I wanted to ask a question because you were talking about the emphasis about adjusting with your hands. And now
Yep.
I am familiar that with a lot of sports chiropractic techniques, they use lasers. Do you incorporate laser therapy at all? Is
Yeah,
there a
that's a good
time and a
question.
place?
That's a good question, Jocelyn. So I look at chiropractic, the hub and the wheels, the adjustment. And from the hub
Mm-hmm.
and the wheel, you have spokes, laser,
Mm-hmm.
orthotics. You would have rehabilitation. You would have yeah, nutrition, right? You'd have supplements. You have these other things adding to the adjustment. And so,
Mm-hmm.
laser, we do have laser. We have orthotics. We have rehabilitation. We have foam rolling. We have muscle stim. We have other things that patients can do to help break the cycle to get them going. But the key is getting them adjusted, break the cycle, the discomfort they're in, improve their quality of life, get them to understand what's going on in their body that's creating this ill health, this chronic disease, this
Mm-hmm.
condition that brought them in the office in the first place. And I don't know. I think with that, you could just give patients great results because patients want to be heard. Patients want to be heard. They want to hear that the doctor's listening to what they're saying. They understand what they're saying. And that's part of wellness. That's part of healing, right? Listen
Mm-hmm.
what the patient says. And when patients say, Doc, I have this neck and arm pain, it's going here. And I reflect, I listen to what they're saying, and I just say it back to them. Okay, neck and arm pain, left side. I understand. I know what you're going through. I understand. Okay, let me get you on the table. So I want to make
Mhm.
sure patients are heard. And once they're heard, they feel like more comfortable. They feel the trust level goes up higher. You give them
Mhm.
results. And now that wow experience, I don't want patients to
Mhm.
have a healthcare visit. I want them to have the healthcare experience in the office. That's another
Mhm.
level of health. And that gets them to go chatter when they're out to dinner, when they're at breakfast, when they're whatever they're doing. They're talking about getting chiropractic care and how much it changed their life. And I expect life-changing conditions. Healthcare conditions that come in my office. I put all these patients on Instagram at Better From
Mhm.
Within. And I show these patients who come on testimonials. Patients have seen 30, 40 doctors, 15
Mhm.
doctors, medications. I had one patient who couldn't even get up out of bed, who ended up by getting care, brought her grade point average up and got into UCLA, where
Mhm.
she wasn't even think she was going to go to college. So here, that's game life changing to me. That's the
Mhm.
ultimate. I'm not talking about it. I'm helping patients, taking them. A lot of practitioners talk about what they could do, but doing it is totally different than talking about it. So if you can do it, I respect you. But if you talk
Mhm.
about it and you're not doing it, then it's all talk. It's all fantasy. It's all perception. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. It's like an athlete who says he could perform on the court, or someone who could get a
Mhm.
hit with the bases loaded. If you can do it on a regular basis and perform,
Yep.
I love that type of person. And my job is to make people better so they can perform better. So
That's why we're talking with you, Dr. Nick, because when you walked into the booth, I was like, wow, all these years. And look, I mean, you can tell when somebody's practicing what they preach.
right.
And that's why you're in our Walking the Talk League of Chiropractors, and definitely somebody you want to follow. I wanted to ask you too, because you're talking about getting patients out of pain.
Mhm.
And I understand pain is definitely a big motivator to get patients in there. Having, been growing up in a family of chiropractors for chiropractic, I'm acutely aware that usually if you wait till either you're in pain or the blood tests show the anomaly, then sometimes you're so far gone. So to me, I've always been saying, one of our areas in chiropractic is to help identify and prevent, much like you'd hear like Asian medicine, Oriental medicine, that they want to keep the patients healthier, that's a sign of a good doctor, that they don't get sick, they don't get injuries, they're not in pain. Do you have that kind of with some patients, in the wellness model? So, a program like that, because I'm kind of somebody who, if I weren't born in a family of chiropractors, I would never go into a chiropractic clinic because I don't have the pain always, but I'm very much aware of the areas that are out of balance. And only I would know that because of the job that we do here. So that's what I'm very passionate about, those people who are like me, who don't even know what they don't know.
So that's a good question. I'll give you some clarity on it too, because that's first of all, patience. Uh, Most people, the inferno has to happen. They don't see sparks and embers that can lead to the fire. They wait for the inferno to happen and then they do something about it. They need the back problem. They need the heart attack. They need something that proves them wrong, because the perception brain, they become their own counsel, their own coach. They think everything's going fine. Everything's going fine. They believe it now because the brain doesn't know, with those bubbles coming off I showed you earlier, right? Part of
Uh-huh.
those bubbles are fantasy and perception. And people think
Mhm.
to themselves, my brain wouldn't screw me over. Well, the brain's not trying to screw you over. It's just what it does. It just sends out bubbles of thoughts, and you have to
Mhm.
filter the thoughts out. So therefore, you need that second opinion, that chiropractor who could give you
Right.
that realistic second opinion for your health. Then once the inferno happens, you come and break the cycle, right? Get you going in the right
Mhm.
direction, whether it be your back or your shoulder or headaches or whatever lifestyle choice that you're choosing, because the inferno happened in your life. Then you start that wellness program, and those patients are open because they trust you now because you fixed the inferno. So now they're
Mhm.
able to kind of move you forward. So you brought up in a chiropractic family, so you knew nothing different. My four children, I had two sets of twins. They're used to getting adjusted. They know what it's like not to get adjusted. They're used to going at with the cylinders working 8 cylinders at the same time, not five. Most people don't know that they have those extra three in them until the inferno happens, and then you bring them up to the level they can get to, and they didn't realize. So guess what I tell my patients?
Mhm.
I'm weird this way. I'm so happy you hurt yourself. They say, geez, doctor, why did you say that? Well, because you didn't know how much better you could be until you hurt yourself. So I'm so glad we met. Otherwise, we would have never met, and I couldn't take you to this level. I couldn't have taken you to this level if you hadn't hurt yourself. So
Mhm.
now, and I just thanked them for hurting themselves. So we met. So they're part of the family. They're part of the wellness care program, the proactive aging approach, to prevent less breakdown, to have more activities and more fun. Because you can't get time back on the back end. You could get it on the front end. Most people at 80 can't go back and say, oh my goodness, yeah, I should have stretched. Yeah, you should have. I should have lifted weights. Yeah, you should have. You didn't listen. So therefore, now you're screwed. You can't get the time back. So now the
It's
younger
like to
generation,
health with you, man. It's like to health with you,
health with
man.
you,
You
right?
just threw your back out
Exactly.
for not coming to me before.
Get the book. It's
A
really good
little
for you.
passive aggressive there with the title, you know. It's like
That's right. That's right. But I had a heart on there, and I tilted it too. A little low.
No,
So anyway, so that's the
There you go.
wellness
It
program I was
softens the
talking
blow. So,
to soften the blow. That's the wellness program I was talking about that I was trying to implement. And you want to connect with people, you want to hug people, you want to give them the feel good hormones we're all after. We're after the dopamine, the endorphins, the oxytocin, the serotonin. We always want to have life having a great day with all these chemicals that put us in a good mood every day. But what happens is, our day-to-day living, our 24/7 stress case, we haven't learned to break the cycle. We're just using to medicating ourselves to break the cycle, not knowing there's an answer on the inside because no one's taught us that. And so it's up to the chiropractor to teach patients that, keep them on the wellness program, keep them proactive. And now they're not a healthcare statistic, an early healthcare statistic. And that's what I look at in my practice. Am I getting patients well and keeping them long term so they're not developing all these chronic illnesses that most people
Well, and I
very
wanted to say
good.
before we wrap things up, because I wanted to get a couple of, in your book, you've got a section kind of about your turn. And there's a couple different topics that you address. And I wanted to start with hydration. If you want to give our readers tell us a little bit about it.
have.
What is,
So over the years, you learn bad habits that people have, right? And one of them is they're dehydrated. They don't drink enough water. They think alcohol, sodas, coffee, teas turn into water, like metamorphosize into water, and actually doesn't. So 60, 70% of your body's water. And most people don't realize that dehydration is like a sponge. If a sponge doesn't have water in it, it's more fragile, it's brittle, it can't bend, it can't turn, it can't twist. And if it's dehydrated, you could actually break the sponge or crack the sponge. Well, the body works in the same fashion. And you find people coming with dehydration injuries that they don't even have any reason. This is one of the other patterns you find. That's they come in, they say, Doc, I just bent over to feed the dog. I just bent over to tie my shoe. I just bent over to brush my teeth. I'm saying, well, wait, how do these injuries happen if they're? And I'm saying, do you drink enough water? Do you drink enough water? So you find these patterns over time, being on the field, being in the game, and you find and you learn from these people. So To Health With You is a lot about what I learned from all these hundreds of thousands of people that taught me to give the world a better clarity, what things that people do wrong that no one taught them not to do. It's not their fault. Nobody taught them. So I said, have you drank water? No, I haven't. Well, you're dehydrated. Let's have you put more water in there because I'm finding it's more muscular. And so then they start a hydration, say, check your urine color. Should be pale yellow to clear. Look down once in a while to see what's going on to manage your health. And so that way, if you need to, put some Celtic sea salt in your tongue or pink Himalayan salt to keep the water in the cells. So now you're more flexible, you're more pliable, less chance of injury. Now, that doesn't mean patients don't continue care. They like it because I'm giving them guidance during their visits that I say, hey, you feel a little dehydrated. How's things been? What's going on? Like the timeout in sports to reevaluate. The coach is looking at the weak part. You're doing the visit. When the doctor's locked in, you're giving them the best they can to find out what they're doing wrong, or maybe it's a good visit. Everything doing great. Still, okay, let's stay preactive. I'll see you in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever the doctor recommends, because they see the patient. But dehydration is a big part of injuries, and dehydration injuries can happen from just not drinking enough water. And patients really don't know that. So I tell them to, maybe if you're going to drink, maybe drink just on Fridays. If you know you're going to have a party this week, just drink on that Saturday. Be aware, make better decision making. Don't drink. Don't You're building the cravings. Don't let the cravings that you build inside your head win in your life, right? Those cravings are powerful. Just because those cravings are there doesn't mean they're accurate. So you need other people to make sure you're staying on track. And the doctor, that's where I see that the chiropractor have such a great impact, because doctors, MDs, really aren't coaching their patients. They're throwing products at them with terrible long-term statistics. Terrible. Terrible. And I've never had an aspirin, Advil, or Tylenol. I'm 65 years old. I hit the track. I do hit rate training. I sprint. I do deadlifts. I pump iron. I stretch. I do yoga. I do these proactive things to be that person to show patients that they could achieve. And I don't want to tell them. I want to just kind of say, these are some things that might work for you. These are some things you want to
Right.
look at. Look in the mirror. And I don't want to come overbearing like my way or hit the highway. I just
Yeah.
want to kind of, there's so much good knowledge I have that I learn from people. I'm just feel so blessed that I was able to learn and put this pattern of things that people have, these bad habits. You know, I'll give you an example. A lot of contractors, electricians, plumbers, they had left hip and leg pain. I was going, how come they have hip and leg? They're all coming in with the same thing, left hip and leg pain. And then one time I was looking out the window, I see this contractor. What do you think the reason is? Most people think they're bending forward a lot. Their tool belts on one side. No. What kind of vehicles do the electricians, plumbers, and contractors have?
Trucks.
Trucks. And how do they get out of the truck?
Oh yeah.
There you go. Oh yeah. So that's my point. Oh yeah. Pound the left leg. Pound the left leg. In Europe, they would do that on the right side, I'm sure, right? So on the other side of the road. But in London, but on the other side, left leg, pound the left leg. And so the IT band gets tight, the hip gets sore, it gets jammed, it gets compressed. So you tell them, okay, well, I'm going to adjust you, I'm going to fix you, but I want you to write a little post-it note, swing your legs, swing your legs, swing it. So then 4 to 5 weeks, you're going to get learned to swinging the legs out, both at the same time, sit, swing your legs in, and make sure your shoes aren't old because your shoes could be a big factor in the left hip and leg. So these are the things that you could see with bad habits. People sleep incorrectly. They sleep with their hand next to their face, their arm over their head. They
Right.
tighten the arm, the shoulder. So sleep posture is
Yeah.
important in the book. They grind their teeth.
Right.
They clench their teeth. They don't. They sit in front of a computer all day. They're hunched forward, and the body only knows what you teach it. We're our own sensei inside our bodies. Whatever we teach ourselves, the body goes and it adapts to that direction. And unless you have coaching to fix that, you're thinking you're doing everything accurately. How's that? So, and that's where I want to
Perfect.
break that cycle.
Very
Super. Well,
good.
thank you so much, Dr. Nick, for joining us.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Joe, do you want to add in any other final questions for Dr. Nick? I know you've had some internet.
No, I've
internet.
just been enjoying hearing. I've had intermittent internet problems, so I apologize if I've been in and out. But no, everything was exactly how I wish we would have had this interview 30 years ago, honestly. I tried to do this back like, in the 80s. I was hunting you down back when we only had dial-up phones, Nick. As
I'm
soon as
trying
I
to
saw
reinvent
Joe
myself now. I'm
Montana,
trying to reinvent myself.
as soon as
I'm
I
trying
saw
to reinvent
Joe
myself with the
Montana, I was
heart.
like, come,
And the athlete,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to get the heart for it's for the love, right?
Yeah.
oh, cool.
The
I'm
heart.
very,
The heart.
It's
thanks
a
for
health
coming on
with
the show.
I appreciate you
Mhm.
guys being part of my team to kind of to get the good word out on how chiropractic can help with long-term health and aging. And I appreciate you guys, everything you do for the profession.
Most definitely.
That's
Well, thank you, Dr. Nick. Everybody can look forward to seeing Dr. Nick in the pages of the American Chiropractor. Also, to order your book. What is a good link or something for the doctors who would like to look up and order your book?
It's called tohealthwithyou.net. And if they want to just recommend it to their patients, they can do it that way, to healthwithyou.net, one word, or just order it on Amazon. It's on Amazon Books. And so
Mhm.
far, so good. It's the only chiropractic book that's out there, so far as I know, on healthcare, longevity, and aging, lifestyle choices. And I try to make it simple where it doesn't cost patients a lot of money and it's just going to guide them and teach them. And I'm getting a lot of great feedback on that. It's like I said earlier in the talk, easy to absorb, digest, and implement things that will help your health.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. So great to see you. And Dr. Joe, everyone, thank you, everyone, for listening. To health with you, then. Have a good
Get
one.
it. You'll be happy with it.